Now, before you read the title and get upset and triggered and try to start a fight in the comments without watching the entire video, let me tell you the joke's on you. This is not that kind of video. We're not bashing anybody here, okay? What I want to talk about today is surviving society, society that we live in, society as we know it, with as much grace and dignity as possible. And by that, I want to talk about authentic self expression in a society that constantly dictates how you should be, what you should do, what is expected of you. And ultimately, in a society like this, we end up shedding layers of ourselves just to be like somebody else, just to be like the majority of the population, to gain their validation, to be accepted. And in the process, we lose everything that is authentic. There's a certain fear that comes with being yourself or saying what you want, or even just minding your business and trying to live a life that is more authentic to you, that is more genuine to you. And even for that matter, the most important part, accepting who you are, really sitting down with yourself, having those introspective moments. All of these things, unfortunately for most of us, are things that we learn much later in life, because our early years are spent in this sort of a competition that is created around us, in school, in other areas of our life, where we must outperform each other, we must be better than somebody else. And in that process, in that struggle, we never really build a unique sense of self. We never really allow our own consciousness to accept the fact that we are a sovereign being on our own, even outside of societal expectations, even outside of what you need to achieve as a person. And I see so many people around me today who are completely exhausted and washed out very early in life, in their 20s and their 30s, and they just still continue to struggle to achieve things in the worldly sense, and their world inside is completely neglected. I was like that. I probably am in a lot of aspects even today, even though I am in this ongoing process of finding myself, my authentic voice. I don't even know. I don't even know what my actual voice sounds like. It's that bad. It just changes depending on the day. My demeanor changes, my thought process, the internal dialogue remains the same, but what's coming out of my mouth, it depends. And that got me thinking, because I woke up today feeling absolutely irritated, feeling trapped by the world, feeling like there are so many terrible things happening around us, and we're forced to exist in a society that does not allow us the freedom of solitude. It is always frowned upon. And when I say patriarchy, I am not speaking against men. Patriarchy is a social construct, it is an ideology, it is a thought process, and that is carried by both men and women. If it was carried by only one side, it wouldn't have survived that long. There are people who enforce it, who benefit out of it, and then there are men and women who completely detest it. And then there are those who, they don't really care. They're just trying to, you know, get through life somehow. But for those who have understood the dangers of this kind of an ideology, both men and women, if you're anything like that, you would realize that when the realization came about that this can't be right, we sort of react fairly aggressively towards it, right? Which is funny, because aggression is something propagated by a societal system like the patriarchy, right? You must, your opinion must be louder than the other person. The way you're doing things is the only right way to be. It sort of puts us into this framework where we're constantly fighting each other. We're constantly fighting ourselves. We're constantly fighting each other. There is this air of aggression and despair around us constantly. And even though we think that we are against this kind of a system, we somehow subconsciously tend to play into it the same way because we're talking against it, but the energy that we're putting out is exactly the energy propagated by this system. When we think we want to bash the patriarchy, we want to take it down, we don't want to be told what to do, we don't want to be placed into a hierarchy by birth and then that dictates what I can and cannot do in my life. We just don't want that, right? And that's just about it actually. But when we tend to talk against it, we talk with so much resentment, and that is understandable. It's understandable because of the terrible things that are happening in the world right now. It is natural to be irritated and miserable and worried for the state of the world, for the people who survive horrors every day because of some people who misuse literally anything. Any ideology that you give them, they'll misuse it, and that's all the person, right? But when we talk about sort of wanting to be our own, sort of, who's calling me? Cancel. Um, Wanting to be our own person, just wanting to be left alone, not wanting to be pushed into like sort of identities even before you have a say in it, and then you're sort of groomed around that identity that this is your nationality, this is your gender, this is your this and that, and therefore you don't deserve this and this, or you deserve to go through this and this. The thing is, trying to step out of a system like that, the first thing that you realize is all of the nonsense that you have been fed in the past, right? By men and women who are propagators of this system. So you tend to react very aggressively to the things that were taken from you, to the opportunities you did not have, and you think that, I mean, we think that we need to fight for it, right? We need to argue and fight, and we're doing the same thing. We're propagating the same air of um, discomfort, of aggression, and that's exactly what's going around. Nothing is really changing, right? What we really want from this struggle is sovereignty as a human being, right? There's no point going on talking about and trying to debate with people about it. And yes, you should have healthy discussions, that's great. But when you debate about it, you go on and on. And I don't see where that goes. And I'm not talking about actually going and speaking against systems that you don't agree with, trying to make changes, trying to help out other people. That's a whole different thing. I'm talking about your immediate environment, right? The people that you know, the people that you come across, maybe family sometimes. When you want to have these discussions, you generally tend to get, I keep saying you like I'm not a part of it, we generally tend to get irritated about this. And what happens is that we go on and on and on saying, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. And then the opposite side will say, no, you were the problem. We'll say, no, you were the problem. Where's that leading? It's breeding more resentment, it's breeding more discomfort that, oh my god, this is the world I live in, and I'm so worried. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what I don't see the point of living in this type of a society, and I don't know, it just goes nowhere. So we've harped about the problem, we know the problem. What we need to do is, I think one way to really sort of turn your back to this system is to maneuver it correctly, right? Get what you want out of it, irrespective of what is expected, irrespective of what is being forced on you, the ideologies, the thought processes, the expectations on how you should live your life. Irrespective of that, speak to yourself, knowing who you really are, and that is something that this sort of a system hates. It hates authentic expression, it hates sovereignty, because that would mean that lesser people are playing into this establishment that sort of benefits off of people competing with each other. It benefits off of people being aggressive and irritated all the time. And what happens out of that is, when you are in this zone of competition, of being better than everybody else, you tend to, we tend to fall into compulsively buying things, trying to outperform other people. There are things that you like on your own. Ask yourself, what are those things? They might not be things that you even discuss with people around you, because probably you don't really have anybody around you to discuss those very niche interests with. For me, for example, from a very young age, I loved art, I loved makeup, I loved things like the supernatural, I loved cryptozoology, parapsychology. These were things that I took a very keen interest in. But I never had anybody to speak to about these things. And eventually, even though I'm still interested in these things now, it took me a fair amount of time to realize that I like this stuff, because it went so far at the back of my head. I hid it over there and I kept it locked away. And I didn't even realize that when people ask me, what do you like? I would be like, I don't really know. I don't think I like anything. I'm not sure. I wouldn't have anything to say when this should have been the first answer that came out of my mouth. But trying to fit into generally people around you, into your circles, into your, when you keep doing that, and that's not a bad thing to have friends who have different interests, but forgetting your own is a whole other thing, right? It's very important to have an internal world that is for yourself, and you constantly question yourself, your reactions, and you know things that hurt you, that pain you, and try to make sense of it, try to grow as an individual. um, but that's what society sort of detests, right? No, that's not important. What's important is what you achieve and how you show up in society. Fine. I mean, but honestly, society is never happy, right? And I think that the only way that we can really not fall apart as a person in a society that does not allow you to keep yourself together is to allow yourself the grace and dignity of knowing who you really are. And that takes time, right? That takes time, that takes effort in a world that is constantly screaming orders into your ears. And it's become such a part of you that you can't hear yourself anymore, right? And but I think it's the best gift you can give yourself, the grace to know yourself, the grace to know when to say no to somebody, to set boundaries, and to respectfully sort of move around people who try to aggressively put their opinions on you or try to put you down for having your own opinions. See, when somebody is talking out of a system, talking out of conditioning, understand that's not coming from them. They have never questioned the things that have been taught to them. They don't want to grow, and that's absolutely fine. But then there's this other part of society that is constantly questioning, constantly growing, constantly trying to be better, and struggling some days trying to do that, because they don't want to be the same person that they were yesterday. They want to know more, be better, see a world that is kinder. So they try to give out as much kindness as possible. And I feel like introspective people do that. And if you can relate to this, then I mean, you're in the right place. You try to give out more kindness sometimes than necessary, and then you blame yourself for being nice to people that were not nice to you. And you feel like we've sort of overstepped our own boundaries and given, you know, uh, more energy to somebody that didn't deserve it. But in a way, it's our way of trying to fix a system that is built on misery, that is built on feeding off of other people's, vulnerabilities, and sort of creating an air of general discomfort all the time, where nobody really knows themselves. How many of us can say that we actually love ourselves? It seems like such a nice thing to say on social media and in movies and everything, self love and self care, and how much of it is actually seeping in, like deep within? How much do we look in the mirror and actually say, wow, I'm so proud of the person I've become? We tend to first look at our drawbacks, our struggles, our troubles. It's become so natural, and you might hear this and say yes, because you have to solve your problems, you have to get out of your struggles, you can't ignore them. See, they are a part of you, and unfortunately, we have been raised to identify trouble, struggle, problems, because we need to show up so perfectly for the world. But unfortunately, that perfection does not mean uniqueness. It does not mean sovereignty to the world. It means you showing up the way the world expects you to be. So, actual human problems, actual human emotions, we hide that from the world, right? Don't cry in public. Don't let anybody know you're going through something. Just show up as this perfect version of yourself on social media. Live your best life. You see someone else posting holidays and enjoying their life, and you say, oh my god, I'm so miserable. I'm not like that. I've been left behind. This is what society propagates, this feeling that you're not enough. Do more. Try harder to be like that. Not try harder to be yourself, not try harder to find your own happiness. Don't give yourself any sort of mercy, don't give yourself any sort of grace. That's laziness. Don't do that. Don't sit down and read a book. Don't say that today I'm going to take it slow. Even if your life is very fast paced and you're an ambitious person, that's great. But it's so important to just sit down with yourself and give yourself the time to get to know that person inside that is struggling for you. That person inside is literally trying to get you through whatever it is that you want to do, but you never turn around and ask them if they're okay, right? And when we talk about patriarchy, we think that we're just attacking men. Well, very clearly, the patriarchy is carried by women as well, and it is affecting both men and women as well. I'm not talking about the people who just run around aggressively, sort of trying to defend it or aggressively trying to oppose it. I'm talking about the normal people, everyday people like you and me who just have our own life, our own struggles, our own growth, our own um, trajectory. We're all trying to find something authentic, and trying to get through our day, hoping that today will be a good day. That's it. And there is no male, female, anything here. It doesn't matter. As a human being, this is what we want, correct? We want peace. We want the ability to sit with ourselves and feel secure, not worry about, oh, what's going to happen today. If I go do this thing, is this going to go wrong? Are my parents okay? Will I be able to do what they expect of me? Will I show up in the right way in front of my friends? And are they going to judge me? These are all things that are so subconsciously like going on and on at the back of your head that peace really finds a seat at the table for us. And so, what I wanted to, I think, sort of uh, touch upon is the fact that when we try to dismantle a system, we need to react differently to it as a person. And this is, I'm not talking about, like I said, I'm not talking about actively speaking about it on platforms and actively, giving your opinion. This is a day to day thing. This is us surviving each day as regular human beings in a society that teaches us only to look at difficulties, to glorify struggle, to glorify hard work. And hard work is great, but hard work is not you tiring yourself out to prove anything to anybody. Hard work is just consistency. And consistency comes from a point of comfort in a sense. And when you say leave your comfort zone to achieve something, I don't believe in that. I feel like if something is uncomfortable, there's something wrong. We're doing something wrong. If every day feels uncomfortable, because even when you're working hard, sometimes you're so in the zone and you know where you're going. So it doesn't affect you, doesn't drain you of your energy, right? But we've been taught this wrong by society that you should be so drained by the end of the day that you have no time for yourself. You have no time to sit down and relax. And you have completely forgotten what it is that you like. You have completely forgotten what used to make you happy. And maybe for some of us, we've never figured it out in the first place. It's just been one thing after the other, one struggle after the other. And then you'll have people who'll tell you, look, you survived it. That's so cool. I wasn't here to survive things. I was here to write my own story. I was here to sort of experience the world around me. Somehow I got pulled into a structure that no matter how nice I am, no matter how much I try to better myself, I'm always sort of aware of the fact that there are people around me that might do me wrong, that might uh, do bad things to me, or that might judge me for who I am. It's, you know, without knowing myself, I realize that it doesn't matter what I'm projecting to the world. I'm being as nice as possible, but you're not being nice to me. And then I realized it's because I'm actually never nice to myself. When you meet people, we inherently tend to read a person's energy. Everybody does that. You pick up that vibe and you tend to react that way to people, right? So, me as someone with zero self image, zero self confidence, zero anything, I'm trying to still be nice to you, but I'm empty on the inside. You're picking that up and you're like, I don't want to take you seriously, right? So that is something that we need to work on. Give yourself the grace to exist fully, to exist as an actual person with a soul, with interests, with a life that is private and personal to you, and you don't have to compete with anybody else for that. And that is maneuvering society and maneuvering patriarchy with grace. Not sitting with these ideas that I'm not enough and I need to have arguments with other people. I need to take up this frustration somewhere else. So I'm saying the right things according to me. I'm talking about um, society without patriarchy. I'm a feminist. So I'm going to react as aggressively to just my inner circle, like, or people that I meet on the street, and we have these discussions, and I'm going to bash you, you're going to bash me, and then we'll go our separate ways. How is that affecting me as a person? How is that affecting them as a person? They are resentful, I'm resentful, we're both the same right now, right? There is a time and there is a place to do those things, right? To say, to speak about those things, to actually go out and help. There is. But for your own sanity, for your own personal growth and personal space, you need to be in a certain mindset to actually be the change yourself, to actually let people know that arguing with me is not going to change my point of view. If you want to speak about something, have your own social media, go do your own thing. Don't come and tell me about what you're thinking, because I'm never going to take on your ideology, and similarly, they're not going to take on mine. So, in everyday discussions, in everyday life, don't make that patriarchal concept of aggression, being louder and being forceful, a part of your inner voice. Don't speak to yourself like that. There is a place for that. There are ways to do that, to talk about things that you believe in, to talk about it with confidence and power. There is a place. You don't speak to yourself like that. If you do that, you will find yourself in a place where you're speaking out of fear, you're speaking out of despair, that why is this happening in the world? Why are people being treated like this? And you're reinforcing those things and bringing about those experiences into your own life. And you're not speaking from a place of grace and actual confidence, which is not loud, it is not disrespectful. It is just there and it cannot be denied. People know they cannot take you down, they cannot change you, because you have given yourself the space inside to be you, to grow, to feel strong, to feel safe, and to live your life in accordance with your own ideologies. You cannot propagate fear within yourself. You cannot propagate despair, misery within yourself, and then say, I'm going to make a positive impact on the world. You're just going to give all that you have inside to the world. That is what the other side is doing anyway, right? You don't see a lot of people talking about peace and, like, not whenever you talk to somebody who kind of has a patriarchal mindset, if you see, they'll always be fairly aggressive with you about, that their thoughts, and they think, you, this is how it is, this is how it's always been, and we'll say no, it's not. And what is the difference between both of us in these? Mind you, I am not talking about the fact that you shouldn't speak about these things. I am not saying that at all. I am talking about maintaining your own personal space and how you speak to yourself, because we're so used to having these arguments in real life, in societal life and everything. We tend to talk to ourselves the same way, right? So when we give ourselves that dignity, that grace, and I will not speak to myself badly. I'm just trying to get through my day, and I need to be kind to myself first. And then I'll expect people to be kind to me. Because giving kindness, when you've got none for yourself, is going to do nothing. So even if somebody has a different mindset, when they come across you, they sense your energy. Even if they came to argue, even if they came to, maybe they'll argue and go along their own path, move away from you. Or maybe they just won't feel like doing that. And that's a win. We have avoided negativity today. We have avoided somebody who thinks that they can say whatever they want to whoever they want. We have avoided a confrontation, a useless, pointless confrontation. We have not allowed them to walk away feeling like they won, and that's great. And at the same time, we have our inner peace intact. And that is how you change the world, by being kind to yourself, by actually feeling what kindness is, what peace is. You feel it first, then you can give it to other people. If you don't feel it first, I'm sorry, how are you going to do that? You're just going to walk into more situations that make you more miserable, more terrified, more agitated, more aggressive, and here we have it. Society as you know it today, congratulations, you're just another person, another part in it that is propagating the same things, and that's how you live your life, even though your ideology is different. You're doing the same thing. But we sort of run on autopilot, so it's not our fault that that's happening, but it is, I think, high time that we realize that that's not how it should happen. We're not here to attack anybody. We're not here to cause negativity around us. But yes, we will speak about things that we don't think are right. We will acknowledge the condition of the world. We will acknowledge the fact that this is not right. This shouldn't be happening. And we will actively shut you down when you try to propagate those ideas, but we will not do it to ourselves. We will not speak to ourselves like that. Right? The thing is, when you want to take something down, you have to render it powerless first. You have to make it feel that, oh my god, I don't have so much power over people anymore, over the system sort of doesn't seem to be holding up as well as before, because people stop giving it their energy. They stop feeding it with the aggression and the misery and the doubt, and stop feeding that to that system. I don't believe in you. I'm not going to waste my energy on you. But if I do see that you are making somebody else miserable, I will speak up for that person. If I see that you're trying to attack me, I will speak up. And I will speak from a place of wisdom. I will speak from a place of peace, of confidence, and that is something you don't have, and you will not be able to convince me of your thought process. Because you're coming from insecurity, you're coming from fear, and you're doing things without realizing that are actively making other people miserable and fearful because you are like that. That is what patriarchal people sort of are, right? They're very aggressive, they're very sort of illogical also. They don't really make sense of things the right way, with compassion and clarity, and it's just something's been passed on to me, and I have to guard this with all my life, and I will take down anybody else who thinks differently, even though they're just minding their business. So I feel like really dismantling a system is to take its power away slowly, by not allowing that system to dictate your inner world. Speak to yourself differently, then you will find yourself reacting from a much more powerful place, and taking on your life from a much more powerful place, as opposed to thinking that this system is not allowing me or is forcing me to do something that I don't want to do. You will automatically, I feel, turn away from those things. And yes, we will always stand up for people who are actively being affected negatively by the patriarchy, and by patriarchal mindsets, by mindsets that don't want people to be peaceful and happy and just live their life. They want people to adhere to these societal rules and norms, and you know, they don't like autonomy, they don't like self-expression, they don't like uniqueness. And when you see the patriarchy with its boot on someone's neck, and that person is just trying to live their life, we will fight for those people, but we will not speak to ourselves like that. We will not speak to ourselves as somebody who is a victim. We will not speak to ourselves as somebody who missed out on things because this and this. We will not speak to ourselves as somebody who has lost a lot because of this system. No, we, even if we've lost it, we'll gain it back because we work on ourselves, because we're kind to ourselves, because we have an inner space that nobody else is allowed into. And there we rest, there we grow, there we find peace and bliss and power. And so we don't act out of insecurity and fear. We just want to go about our day. We want a better world. And for that, we must work on ourselves because you guys clearly aren't doing it. You just want to take down women, you want to take down other men, you want to take down literally whoever you can, you know? And it's so sad to see that you all have a louder voice. So, what we're going to do is we're going to not listen to you, but if when necessary, we will shut you up, but we're not taking your nonsense with us home. It's not entering the inner world. Now we know that you don't treat yourself with kindness, hence, all you have to give is pain and suffering. That's what you do to other people. And we will actively always speak up for people who are suffering in this system. Everybody is, in a way, including the people who propagate it. But we're not going to shut up, and we're not going to be as miserable as you are. We are going to grow, we are going to evolve, and we're slowly going to dismantle the system by taking away its power, by not playing into what it expects of us. So that's what I want to talk about. Maneuvering patriarchy with grace, with kindness, but with a quiet power that comes from within. So I would encourage you maybe to have a little conversation with yourself, maybe journal. And I found that I've always found journaling so difficult because I have to write down things that I don't usually say to myself. I have to admit things that I turn my face away from most of the time. I have to be authentic, and I've always found journaling so difficult. But I try. I still try, and it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary to really force yourself to have difficult conversations with yourself. Force yourself to get out of patterns and ways of thinking, ways of being that quite obviously are not really benefiting. So I would put myself into a bad mood so many times just because I'm worrying about people. I'm worrying about people that are being violated, they're being ill-treated, and I would feel helpless. I want to speak for all of you. I want to do something. I want to change the world, and I realized that give yourself kindness first. And whoever you come across will feel that energy and will feel better as a person. They won't be reacting out of misery or anything because they just feel better. Give yourself grace so you can give other people grace, right? And always speak up for people who can't speak up for themselves, and that you can only do when you have an authentic voice. That's the only time that'll come out. Otherwise, you're going to doubt. You're going to be like, oh, what do I say? How do I do this? How do I go about this? No. When you are a secure, authentic individual, you will speak up on your own for these things. And a lot of us do. We do. But that doesn't mean that you give yourself also uh, like push yourself into that misery and say, I will fight literally everybody who comes my way, and I will fight myself. Most importantly, it just becomes a thought process. It just becomes a way that you function. You're fighting everybody. Everybody is miserable. I'm miserable, and I will speak to myself very badly, and I will judge myself constantly because that's what, in a way, is happening to me from the outside. Is what I'm doing to the outside world, and there's nothing else. So allow yourself the grace and the dignity to be authentic, to be yourself. And how do you do that, you may ask? By not giving a flying, what, about anybody else. There is no you thinking, okay, what is my authentic self today? No, I'm just going to do what I feel like doing, and I don't care. I don't care. I want to sit down and do nothing today. That's great. I want to work on something that is important to me today. That's great. I'm not going to think about what anybody else thinks of me. I'm not going to think about how am I showing up in the world. Do I look happy? Do I look accomplished? Do I look a certain way? Do I look successful? I don't care. I don't care what you see. What is important is how I see myself. And that's that. That's how you do it. At least that's what I figured out up until now. So I hope you understood that I was not trying to bash men or anybody or anything. I am just talking to people who just want to get through their day, who don't agree with these ideologies, who just want to sort of flow into life, do good for the world, contribute well to the world, find their inner space, their inner peace, and build their own sense of power. And yeah, that's all. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to post this. I probably will. I don't know. Anyway, you guys have a nice day. Be kind to yourself. Thank you for being here if you stayed so long. And I genuinely hope we all find more peace, more love, more compassion, and we find better connections, and we're genuinely able to make a better impact on this world. As long as we're here, we do what we can, right? All right. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.